It feels like home, home, home. It feels like home, home, home. It feels like home.
Hey there friends, welcome to Weldon Home. We are going to be making a secret ingredient cake today. It's one of my daughter's favorites, and I usually don't tell people that have never had it before what the ingredients are. So I will tell you, but you can't tell. This is a cup of prunes, and I'm going to add a cup of boiling water to just cover those, and then I'm going to set that to the side while I put together the rest. So that is the secret ingredient, and you won't taste it. It just adds a nice level of tartness and moisture to the rest of the cake, and I actually call this a buttermilk caramel cake. So anyway, the first thing that we're going to need is 1.5 cups of flour, a cup of sugar. I didn't get up my measuring spoons. Look at, see, I got all this out and then I forgot my measuring spoons. And I am in my overalls today because I've been painting chairs, and I got about halfway yesterday, and then I decided I needed to go make dinner. So I'm gonna try and get the rest of those done. Then you're gonna need 1 teaspoon of soda, and I like to just put it into my hand and then crush it because in the South here we get lots of moisture, and so the soda gets all chunky, and you don't want a big chunk of soda. But I also don't want to really sift it. Then I'm gonna need a teaspoon of nutmeg. And if you didn't know, nutmeg and mace are related. The nutmeg is the inner nut, and the mace is the outer coating of the same nut. So they're very similar. And then you need a 1/2 teaspoon of allspice, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. All right, so I'm going to bring that together with my oh, you know what? I'm gonna use my new whisk. Let's try this. So I'm gonna bring that together with my whisk. Ooh, look at that. It comes together really, really well. The whisk does a really good job. And I've got a different camera person than normal. Mary's doing the filming for me today. But look at how cool that whisk is. I love it. All right. So I've got my dry ingredients there, and then I'm going to need 3 eggs, a cup of oil, and this is a cup of, is that a cup? Yes. I'm gonna put my cup of buttermilk into just a measuring cup, and then to that I add 3 eggs, and use your elbow to make sure that the other one doesn't roll off the counter. Here's 2, and here's 3. We had another wonderful adventure last night. It was 11 degrees here, and even though we have all of our pipes wrapped for warmth and everything, they still managed to completely freeze solidly, as well as our pond. So trying to get water to our animals was really, really hard. I had to use a piece of broken granite to try and hack through so that we could get some ice water out to our donkey and goats. Ridiculous. And then our rabbit waters were frozen solid, and we could only find 2 other containers, so it was quite a fun adventure. And then by the time I got back in the morning, the water was back on at the house. So, you know, you think, oh, I've got to go buy water and all the things. Thank goodness it all came back on though. So it seemed like a good baking day because it's really, really cold outside. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour this in. I just kind of make a well in the center of my dry ingredients, and I'm gonna go ahead and add this in, and I'll go get my oil. And I actually normally use canola oil, but I don't have any, so I'm gonna use sunflower oil, which works really well. It doesn't have a very strong flavor, the sunflower oil, and it does a really nice job. And just lament with me the fact that my measuring cup has no markings anymore. It's been used repeatedly. I think that's about a cup. So that goes in, and we're just gonna give that a good mix. This recipe comes together and is so quick and easy. The very, very best part of this recipe is the caramel glaze that goes over the top. So this has sat with boiling water over it until it got soft, and now I'm just gonna go ahead and mash it up until it is kind of more like a paste. So I'm gonna have to do that without using my left hand because my left hand is really not good at this. So I'm just gonna stir that into my batter. And don't worry if there's some fairly good sized chunks in there. It just tastes like a very rich, kind of tangy spice cake. And like I said, the frosting on this is the coup de grace. It's the very best part, I think. So you don't want to overmix it, but you do just want to make sure that you get all of that plum or prune paste evenly distributed. And then I'm going to go ahead and put that into my 9x13 and bake it at 300 degrees. Grab my spatula. This is a greased 9x13, as you can see. I'll go ahead and pop that in the oven at 300 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and set the timer for 35 minutes. And it could take 35 to 40, so just keep an eye on it. You just want to make sure it's nice and golden brown when you pull it out. And we're going to glaze it hot out of the oven, and that's what gets the glaze to just melt down into it and just permeate the entire cake and be yummy and delicious. So into my little saucepan, I have a half a cup of buttermilk, and if you don't know and you don't have any buttermilk, you can always just use regular milk and put a teaspoon of vinegar or lemon juice, something acidic, into it, and that will turn it into a buttermilk type consistency worthy of baking with. And then to that, I'm going to add just a cup of sugar and one little glug of corn syrup just to keep it from crystallizing. And if you don't like corn syrup, you could use honey or something else that's just an alternate kind of sweetener, a liquid sweetener. And half a teaspoon of baking soda. And we're just gonna give that a stir and get it to come up to a boil. So I'm just gonna stir it so that it all comes together, and then I'm gonna boil it without stirring it for 5 minutes, remove it from the heat, and add some vanilla. This is just the thing that makes it. This is like an old-fashioned buttermilk pancake syrup. I don't know if you've ever made buttermilk pancake syrup with the soda in it. It's just something really special. It tastes very old-fashioned. This is like a Depression-era recipe, and something that's really inexpensive to bring together, but something you can make with all of your pantry ingredients, things that you don't have to run out to the store and get, and things that are shelf-stable, so except for the milk. People who didn't have a lot of money and had some farm animals would make this sort of thing and had everything on hand. It's just one of those good old-fashioned simple recipes. And a half a stick of butter. Can't forget that butter. So the butter is a quarter cup of butter or a half a stick, and that'll just melt in there. I don't need to stir it in. Now that the sugar is kind of in there and starting to dissolve, that butter will melt and everything will come up to a boil, and then I'll pour it over our hot cake. In the meantime, I'm gonna get back to my chairs and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. So this bit is the magic, and that is where you want it to be for about the next 5 minutes, just bubbling away and doing its wonderful goodness. But see all of that bubbly, delicious, caramely, buttermilky. It's just one of those indescribable flavors. We were saying maybe kind of like just super spicy for this time of year. It's perfect. It's got all the yummy warm allspice and cinnamon and that flavor to it, and then also the caramel and gooey and buttery and a little bit salty. It's just such a good, yummy dessert, and it's so quick to pull together. So it's cool and we haven't eaten dinner yet, but I just wanted to cut into it before it gets any darker and just show you how gorgeous and delicious this is. Oh my gosh, it is literally, it's not just Mary's favorite, it's one of mine too. Oh, look at the side right here. Can you see the caramel coming up? So, not that I'm trying to spoil my appetite, but this is one of my very favorites too. Oh yeah, that is worthwhile. You guys are gonna love this cake. It's so ooey and gooey, tangy, spicy, caramely. Just perfect for a very cold night like this. So I hope you give it a try, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.